Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Here's a look at the ES in the daily time frame right now. Kind of a narrow range as we head into the RTH Open, 26.5 points of range, right at the center of a developing trading range here that has been playing out over the last week plus. We did follow this thing with a heavy selling day on Thursday, and we're looking for a fade back to the midpoint on Friday. We got that fade back, but this still appears to be a good, strong day one rejection. And so keep an eye on the previous session's high here. If it's going to be a rejection here, that could open up a little bit of a fade back into Friday's range. Perhaps we could even, in the worst case scenario, go outside day down today. But for the most part here, we'll see how volume and volatility comes back to the market after an extended holiday weekend. But keep an eye on the previous session's high price. Any failure there and you start to work your way back into Friday's range. If this is a strong day one rejection here, then ultimately we could be looking at a fade back into the larger trading range, or the larger range that is developed already, which could take us at least back to the midpoint of that range around 51.50. And in the most bearish scenario, we could be looking at a move that takes us across the entire range at 49.50. We'll see how that develops here as we head into the new week of trading. This week, fairly light on the economic calendar front. We do have Beige Book here Wednesday, consumer confidence here today at 9 a.m. and then Thursday GDP. So Thursday GDP prior to the RTH Open will be the big item for the week. If we take a look here at the ES, rather the NQ, you'll notice the NQ here continues to show a little bit of strength here after Thursday's continuation back into, or Friday's continuation back into Thursday's sell-off. Again, this appears to be a strong high that developed here, but we got a really hard fade back up on Friday here, closing through that midpoint. Again, like the ES, you're going to want to continue to watch the previous session's high price. That previous session's high there is going to be very important early today. A failure there, and you're looking at a bearish failed new high that could take us back to the midpoint, 18,800, with a shot to rotate a bit lower within the range. We do have this narrow range that has developed here over the last week plus, and it's happening right at the previous quarter's high. So again, if there is a failure, especially a failure at 18.6 here, that could start to open up a return back into the larger range below, with a shot to return back to that year-to-date VWAP, 17,870, and the 18K zone right there. So again, keep an eye on the previous session's high. That's going to give the early test of the day. If there's a failure there, we start to rotate back toward that midpoint of the previous session's range, and then perhaps even progress lower within the range from there. If we take a look here at crude oil staved off heavy selling pressure. As we mentioned before here, that failed new high, outside day down, narrow range here, appeared as though it was about to see a major breakdown. And instead, Friday, we got a failed new low with a bullish move. Here, we're seeing a very strong start to the day, 1.7% gain already on 1.35 points of range. And to fail at the low down here on Friday, that slingshots you back for a retest of 80 up above. So this thing staving off major selling pressure yet again. We could be looking at a continuation higher toward 80. Now, is this market ready to break through 80? As we've seen before, it's had a heck of a time here on multiple challenges at 80, and each time it has led to price dropping back down towards 77 or 76.50. So again, big time level right there. One of the targets we were looking for early this quarter was for a test at this pink line down here. That's 76.25. On Friday, we finally got there at 76.15 after barely missing it on a couple of different occasions. That's a big time level right there, and it bounced right off that zone. Does that bounce lead us higher back toward 83. That's going to be the previous high and close of last quarter of Q1. So that, in order for that to take place, obviously you need to break through 80. 80, the big level here. Bullish short-term directional conviction within the trading range right there. Once we get to 80, we'll see how this thing develops from there. Looking at gold futures, you'll see here gold has had quite the pullback from the recent highs. Double top up there, pulling back toward the center of this range here. We do have a little bit lower to reach the bottom end of the range, which would be near the 2280 level. Right now we have a push back through Friday's high. Again, kind of like these other markets, if price is going to fail at that high, we could be looking at a continuation back down. But this market generally remains sideways to up overall. It's had a tremendous growth here, especially since it bounced off the 2000 level back in February. Massive rally to 2450 and has now double topped that level since then. So we have a very large trading range that is developed here. We're right at the center of the range, which doesn't really provide a lot of great edge right now. So we got to kind of move to an edge or stay within the flow of the current uptrend. So keep it on the previous session's high as of right now, pushing through that level. And to be right at the center of the range, again, provides a little bit of confusion here. We still have an overall upward bias, but we're flowing down within the short-term trend of this move, which could take us back toward 2280. If it does, it could be a phenomenal buy opportunity back up within the range. Taking a look at the YM, you'll notice the YM right now is flat, very, very flat at the moment. The last 3 days, really. You have this day developing, you have Friday's session, and then after the major sell-off here, it kind of just sat there on the lows. It kind of sat on the lows here recently and just hung out there. So this is a really flat range at the moment. It's kind of a rest after battle style pattern here that's developed. Now this thing is almost at the midpoint of its range here. We talked about 38.8 or perhaps even as low as 38.6 for this market, especially after recent selling pressure. You had this narrow multi-day range that took a huge downside break, and it did so after reaching 40,000 and recent highs here. So again, are we developing a large trading range, something that we had forecasted before? This one certainly seems to be on that path. If we are going to see further weakness here, again, any pullback could be seen as a selling opportunity for a push into the next zone below, 38.6 to 38.8. But right now, very, very flat, low range price action right now, 140 points right now, which is just 44% of ADR with a short-term downward bias. Looking at Bitcoin right now, Bitcoin is up to, well, it's gotten above 70,000, but is currently pulling back off that zone right now. Down 1.4% at the moment with a failed new high developing here. That failed new high could be a short-term indication of weakness to come. Perhaps back to the center of the range here. We've been mostly range bound in Bitcoin for a while as it's kind of digested the recent Q1 rally. That rally was huge. The Q4 rally was huge. And now this thing is kind of resting here with the potential to see further range-bound action and an upside break down the road. Now, again, we had 58K as our best entry price here in the short-term basis. That was a 25% extension from this key range. The key range over here still forecasts an 88,000 target. 88K is the likely target up above, but you got to bust through the 74 415s at some point down the road. As of right now, we could be trading back and forth within this range until a breakout occurs. Failed new high right now could lead to a little bit of short-term weakness, perhaps even back to 62.6, the breakout point here. We got our 10,000 point rally, but right now kind of resting after that move. We'll see which way we go shortly. Now ETH is up about 4%. It has reached highs already of 39.80, which is new highs here, not seen since really back in last March back here. So these are the highest levels we've seen since then. This is the 25% extension for the month from the edge of the previous month's high. So you have the previous month's low, previous month's high. That's your 25% extension, and right now showing a little bit of resistance in that area at the moment. This thing's still riding a high on the potential of getting a spot ETF approved at some point, maybe as many as 5. So again, that thing could continue to show quite a bit of strength here, especially if that is approved. Now, do we see some sort of buy the rumor, sell the news type of price action afterward? That's going to be something to keep an eye on. But like Bitcoin, this one has a great key range here. This key range forecasts a target of 5,200 down the road. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this develops here heading into the new week of trading. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.